Well, Nintendo announced the thing we were all waiting on them to announce. Pokemon also announced the thing that we knew was coming up, but now we know it's happening. We talk a little bit about the breakout hit Helldivers, and let's talk about what Xbox revealed last week in their businessy podcast. That's right, it's time for the Game News Show again. Welcome in, everybody. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. I know we didn't have a show last week, but hey, you know what? Things happen. We're here again live. We're going to talk about upcoming things and things that happened in the last 7 days of gaming. So let's just jump to our first story, which is we have a Nintendo Partner Showcase 2/21/24. This will have already happened by the time this video actually goes up on the YouTube channel. But don't worry, because I'm sure you're extremely happy or extremely disappointed with what you watched. I will be live reacting to this as it goes live. It's only 25 minutes long. The morning stream will just be a little longer. If you're watching this show after the fact, I hope you watched the Nintendo Direct and it was everything you ever wanted. Unless you hate Nintendo, in which case I hope it was everything you didn't want. I don't know. I'm just trying to please everybody, I guess. That's not possible. Anyway, Nintendo's got some things coming up, showing off the first half of 2024 from their publishing and development partners. I'm looking forward to some good stuff. Might we get a Metroid Prime 4 teaser? Might we get some more information on some other first-party games that have been handed off to second and third-party studios? Who knows? I'm looking forward to it, though. These are always fun. There's usually like a couple of surprises in these. Whether or not they're first-party, I don't know. But I haven't seen, or really I've been trying to avoid people predicting too much with these because I like to be surprised. I don't want to go in knowing what it is. I just want to go and watch it and go, oh, okay, that looks good, or that looks terrible, and leave it at that. So, that's the first story. Let's move on to the next story, which is another live stream happening on the next week, February 27th. Pokemon Presents at the same time, 6 a.m. PST, which is 8 a.m. Central Time. I will be live reacting to this as well, but they put out a little video. Pokemon Day celebration and a 15-second. I feel like they put this out every year. The only thing I have to say is I'm fairly certain that's a Gen 2 Pokemon song, but it might be Gen 1. But I find it curious that they're putting retro music. They didn't put any Scarlet and Violet music in there. They put in some classic music. Is that a tease for something? I wish I knew. I really wish I knew. But I'm looking forward to this. We might get a look at the next remakes. We might get a look at the next generation of Pokemon. There definitely will be some Pokemon Masters EX news and Pokemon Unite news at this thing. So let's look forward to that. I just think it's gonna be a fun event. I like these. I'm hoping, if anything, I'm hoping this is where we finally get Pokemon games coming to Switch Online that aren't Pokemon Stadium. I'm talking GBA, Game Boy. Put Crystal on there. Put Ruby and Sapphire on there. Gen 1 and 2. Make all of it work with Pokemon Home. I almost said Bank, but it's not Bank, it's Home. But anyway, yeah, so Pokemon Presents happening next week, Tuesday, February 27th. We will be doing that, and then probably talking about it on the Game News that night. So look forward to that live reaction stream. Okay, next up, Sonic Superstars got a leaked DLC that we all knew about, finally out. It's a Shadow costume for Sonic, and I think it's weird that they just didn't replace Sonic with Shadow, but instead he's wearing a suit to make it look like Shadow, and I just thought it's at that line where it's adorable and weird at the same time. So I had to feel a way about it. Now you all get to feel a way about it. Here you go. All right, let's talk about Helldivers 2. This game had a bunch of trailers. I was not impressed or interested. And now it is immensely popular, which makes me wonder what happened to my taste in games. Because usually I am kind of like, oh, that's going to be a hit. And it is, and I missed it. I was like, the trailers look neat. I'm not gonna lie, the trailers look neat. It looked like a fun game. But this game is doing some numbers on Steam. 330,000 peak players on Steam amid constant server issues. So one thing we learned over the last week is that Helldivers 2, really popular, It looks really fun. The gameplay I've seen and the things I've seen about the game that I didn't get from any of the trailers, I kind of want to try it. Tempted to download it. But as the title here, headline here suggests, there are server issues. So it says, in 10 days, Helldivers 2 has established itself as a remarkably popular game, releasing on both PS5 and PC and storming to success across both platforms. It's currently sitting in 4th place on Steam's list of most played games, boasting an all-time peak concurrency of around 330,000 users. It has beaten out the likes of Baldur's Gate 3, Destiny 2, Starfield, and Halo Infinite, which is really impressive for, it's a cheaper title, but it's not free to play, it costs money, and it's a Sony game, like a Sony Studios game. Weird, right? Didn't expect that. So yeah, the game is so popular, but the server demand is not keeping up, and so people are in long queue times. A lot of people are trying to game the queue system so they can just sit in queue all day, and once they get their spot and get home from work, they'll be able to play or do whatever. It's kind of jacked up. Like, kick them out. Don't let them do that. Stop that. But anyway, yeah, so going forward, Helldivers 2 devs working to increase server capacity, because of course they are. The game's super popular and people want to play it. I got a buddy of mine who left a not recommended on Steam, and I was like, hey, was the game bad or could you just not play it? And his response was that he just couldn't play because of the server issues. I was like, no, I get that. Like, if they fix that, should I check this game out? Because I kind of want to. And so their official Twitter account, despite our best efforts to increase server capacity to accommodate all of you who want to die for freedom, we're experiencing capacity issues. We are once more working without delay to improve the issue and hope to have a fix in place as soon as possible. The game looks fun. I'm glad it's taken off, because with this and Pal World, it is really something to be said about smaller, tightly focused, lower budget games, lower cost games doing really well. And then you have AAA games, Skull and Bones. We're not going to talk about Skull and Bones tonight, but Skull and Bones that cost millions to make and are terrible. So I just think it's important to keep that perspective. People like this. People want more of this. So then we have another interaction on the internet. This is from IGN. Should you buy Helldivers 2 right now? Arrowhead CEO says it's worth waiting until the server problems are fixed. So this was an exchange. Hopefully they have the actual tweet here. Do they not? Oh, IGN. A little disappointing. But a dude was like, hey, I just spent a bunch of money on games. And the dude was like, hey, the CEO was like, hey, I want you to buy the game, but don't do it right now. We don't have capacity and you'd be wasting your money. Instead, wait till you have the money and we've got the game up and running, which I thought was just like a feel good move. I was kind of hoping this article had the tweet, but they don't, which is terrible. Is this the tweet? Here's the tweet. All right, cool. Saved myself. So it's like, all of you taking up Helldivers 2 need to stop that curse word right now. You're making me want to buy it and I have no money. He's like, if you have no cash, get it later. Well, we made a really fun game. It's worth waiting until the servers can support the capacity. I mean, as CEO, of course I want the game to be as profitable as possible, but if you spent your last dollars and got stuck in server queues, I'd be broken heart emoji. So, like, the response, this took off today. Did pretty cool. I just think it's a good move. Like, what a good way to make your customers feel valued, even future customers. All right, let's move on to the next article. Respawn, I thought this was cool. This is from Game VRO. I've seen this in a couple of other places, but this article was written up, so let's go with it. Respawn now working on new first-person Star Wars Mandalorian game. I saw this, and I legitimately was like, no way, we need this terribly. Like, a Mandalorian game is pretty much essential at this point. Like, we need to be able to play as Mando, protect Grogu, shoot things, be a Mandalorian. Like, this is going to be good. If this is in early stages of development, as it's reported in this article, let's see. No, Respawn's cooking a Star Wars single player experience like a lot of people have wanted for a long time. I believe he was asked if they were working on. See, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really read this article, so I'm skimming it right now. My apologies. Let's see. Fans' frustration over EA not developing Star Wars Battlefield 3. Oh, they're not making Battlefield 3, but they're making up a Star Wars single-player experience I think a lot of people have wanted for a long time. And then, where does it prove the Mandalorian? All right, anyway, I saw a bunch of people talking about this, so it made it kind of... I thought it was newsworthy because if it's real, let's go. If it's a rumor, boo, get out of here. I hate unconfirmed rumors or unsourced rumors, and that's kind of what this article felt like. But anyway, all right, moving on. I'm not going to linger. Nintendo Switch 2 will now launch in 2025. So this kind of disappoints people. We kind of went into this year thinking we would have Switch 2 tease by March, or info by March, released by holiday, or they were going to at least announce the Switch 2 in January or February and then release it March or April like they did with the Switch 1. That doesn't seem to be the case here. Whispers from industry sources this week saying that the Switch 2 is targeting Q1 2025, which has slipped out of a previous 2024 target. So this means we likely won't get it until... Hey, Christian Ninja, thanks for stopping in. Want to chat? We got a jet. Have a lurk. Hey, thanks for the lurk. Ons, hey, what's up, man? Hell, basically, I just saw, do you feel the way? I felt the way. Anyway, Switch 2 being pushed to March, essentially at the earliest, March 2025, which is literally a year from now. So, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but let's give Nintendo the time to work on that hardware, right? Let's wait on that. I would prefer that to Xbox 360's Red Ring situation, or PlayStation 3's Yellow Light of Death, where they were literally trying to get the hardware out of the door so fast that there were manufacturing issues. So, interesting. Very interesting. But, yeah, it's kind of surprising. It is disappointing. I will say that. I was kind of looking forward to getting a new Switch this year because I like new hardware. I like new things. Let them cook. But... kinda, right? Like, let's get the hardware as good as it can be, but also as much hardware out there as possible. So I think it's more of a numbers game than a we need more time to make the right system game. I think this is Nintendo needs to know that they have enough stock on hand, because this is the successor to almost the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. I mean, it's outpaced almost every one of Nintendo's previous records. I think it's still up against the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. It might have crushed that one already. I don't have those numbers in front of me, and I don't memorize certain facts, but it's their best console like ever. Let's just go ahead. I think it's safe to say it's their best console since the year 2000. So, you know, that was 24 years ago. So let's go with that. It's their best console, though. Let's not beat around the bush. With all of its issues, let Nintendo make that next version even better, but more approachable and accessible. Actually have it on the shelves. Let's avoid the Xbox Series and PS5 launches where you had to basically just be incredibly favored and blessed, and, you know, maybe murder people or shop on eBay and pay an inflated price to get the hardware. Anyway, moving on, a bunch of people corroborated this, reputable sources, Bloomberg, Eurogamer, other people. They, VGC does good work. I believe that they did work on this to, make sure it's right. But it's a bit of a bummer. I'm still looking forward to it. I'm still excited. Yeah, I just need that Metroid Prime 4. That's what I'm hoping to see tomorrow, but let's see. All right, let's move to our next topic here. We played around enough. Sony reportedly lost $10 billion in value after missed PS5 sales target. So I'm normally not big on the finance side of things because I like hearing about it, but I don't know if you guys like talking about it or like me talking about it. I'm not well versed in the investment realm. But the fact that they forecasted sales of 25 million units for the PS5 in the current fiscal year, that dropped to 21 million units. So, a 4 million unit difference, meaning they predicted they would sell 25 million PlayStations, but now they're predicting they're only going to sell 21 million PlayStations. There's a lot of things that go into that, a lot of factors, a lot of harsh realities. Because of that, their Sony parent company, not PlayStation, but Sony, lost around $10 billion in value after this new forecast. And then the company reported a nearly decade-low operating margins at 6% last quarter, meaning their margins, so I think what they're clearing is like a 6% increase or 6% over their operating costs. And that's, it's terrible because businesses have to make money. But this is the same Sony that released Madam Web. So, I mean, you kind of did it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. This is about video games, not movies. What I believe this is amounting to is hardware sales cooled off with the redesigned PlayStation, the PS5 Slim, as it's called. It's not really Slim. It's just the PS5 V2. Everybody thought a PS5 Pro was inbound. And now it's looking like we might get a PS5 Pro next year, but who knows at this point. Everybody's predicting something different, and I think last game news we talked about it, the PS6 kind of taking over development and the PS5 Pro being shelved. I don't know if that's still the case, and I really haven't looked. I'm just interested in what is Sony's plan, because they need to just start putting everything on PC day one. If they want to recoup cost of development, Spider-Man 2 costs $300 million. Spider-Man 3 is probably going to cost at least that much, right? So if Sony wants to keep that up, they need to start selling their games on other platforms sooner, not a year later. It's going to aggravate people, but they're moving in this direction already. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. I don't want to get off topic too much. So talking about these predictions and everything else going on, Sony says no major franchise game releases are coming until April 2025 at the earliest. So this kind of means like no big giant first party, second party games dropping until next year, and who knows what those will be. Right? Like that's pretty much what they're saying. So no new God of War, no more Spider-Man, nothing else, no Horizon, none of these big games until 2025. What's already announced is announced, but there's no other major releases planned. Okay, cool. Everything's just kind of cooled off, like for the fiscal year. It's the end. We're at the end of the fiscal year. I believe March is where a lot of things wrap up. So, we're running that down. They're not going to announce anything just yet because they want people buying things right now as well. And so you'll notice news and stuff kind of cools off. And then in the summer, we start getting blasted again with new stuff like May and June, traditionally when E3 would have been, because they want to hype you up for quarter 3 and 4. And so it's a whole cycle, it's a whole cycle. Anyway, so yeah, no major games coming out. A lot of people were upset by this. Some people don't understand what this means. To me, this means, hey, you know what? There's games still coming out, but no first-party Sony games that they're going to announce at any time. That's fine. Whatever. Do what you got to do. All right, let's talk about Microsoft, because everybody loves the Xbox. Actually, it's my favorite console, but I digress. Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass service grows to 34 million subscribers. This is cool because the number is up like almost, it's like 9 million from 2 years ago. This number, 34 million, comes from the podcast that they did last week to alleviate everybody's concerns about Xbox leaving the hardware market and no longer making consoles and moving everything to third party. Instead, the PC Game Pass and console Game Pass services are doing pretty well. It says console growth has slowed down mainly because at some point you've reached everybody on the console that wants to subscribe. That's in 2022. So the podcast, they're like, hey, we're actually up quite a bit. We're doing pretty well. Hardware sales are what they are, but I don't think they address that in this podcast. But they want everybody to be able to play games on their services, and they really want people to play on xCloud and Xboxes and PC, and probably mostly PC because that's probably the cheapest for them to put games on. But that's good for Game Pass because everybody's been talking about Game Pass hasn't really gotten any better, or it's cooling off and people aren't going to do it. And I still enjoy my subscription. And it is now, I went from, I had a couple of years of Game Pass, and now I'm paying for it monthly, and it's one of those subscriptions, and I'm like, nah, just let it be. I'll pay for it because I use it a lot. We use it in my house a lot. So it's a good service. But okay, so then from this podcast, on to our next story from Polygon. 4 Xbox exclusives are coming to PS5 and Switch. This says Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment will come first. I'm not entirely sure that that's confirmed because I did watch this podcast and listen to it, and they said they were going to let each studio announce it as the time comes. But they did confirm Starfield and Indiana Jones are not in the 4 games that are coming. So those 2 games will remain Xbox PC exclusive. Perfect. So people kind of wanted. But Hi-Fi Rush going multi-platform, kind of not surprising. More people should play a really good game. And then Sea of Thieves is highly rumored to go to PS5 and Switch, which I think is great. It's a service game. Service games have to have constant player influx, or it's seen as stagnant. Once you've saturated Xbox, and I don't think you can ever saturate the PC market, but you'll get to a point where people aren't downloading on PC anymore. Once you get to that point, you've got to go multi-platform, or you're not going to attract any new people, especially the way Xbox operates. They want people playing on every screen, and they want you playing on xCloud, and they want you to just play their games. Service games need more players, and so that doesn't surprise me in the least. In fact, it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, those games are coming at some point, which leads to the last thing where I thought was kind of cool. This wasn't really a thing. This was just announced just recently. But Xbox adds custom touch controls in remote play for over 100 games. So basically taking what they do in xCloud, where if you're playing with just your phone and there's controls implemented for a specific game, if you're doing it locally on your own internet to stream from your console via remote play, you can now just do it. You don't have to have a controller. You can just use your touchscreen, which is good for some games. It's not good for every game. But yeah, that's pretty much the Microsoft news. I thought that was good. The update that they released last week was really a big, calm down, guys. We're not going anywhere. Quit being stupid. Let's just chill. But it was very safe, very corporate-y. I was going to do some coverage of it, and a couple of things came up that I couldn't really dive in and focus on it like I wanted to. But then, also after watching it, I was like, they didn't say anything. 4 mysterious games, 4 unknown games are going multi-platform. Big whoop. It's not a big deal. You're gonna enjoy the games you want to enjoy. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's game news. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know how the Nintendo Direct went. I'll have just reacted to it, but comment below if you do watch this after the fact. If you made it this far through the video, also consider subscribing. That helps me out, and it helps me want to make more videos. We also live stream daily, 9 a.m. Central Time. You can come hang out with us then. If you're watching on Twitch, we're about to go play some Apex Legends and hang out and chat. So do that, and I'll see you soon. Bye.